okay? You know, I ran for office multiple times. We're the ones who figured out that in Massachusetts, the voting machines have, whether it's Dominion, whether it's ES&S, or any of these machines, they have a feature that they offer as a software feature. And the feature is that you can multiply a vote by a decimal number. What does that mean? That means we don't get one person, one vote. That means if you got 100 votes and I got 100 votes, the machines have a setting where I can multiply your votes by 1.5, a weighted race feature, and I can give me 0.5. So I get 50 votes, you end up getting 150 votes. It's a feature, all right? And that feature, how did that feature get in the voting machines? Well, first of all, the software developer put it in there. But how did it actually get in there? Because the state election directors in every state have to certify these voting machines. They have to certify the features, the capabilities, the security, all these issues. So if you have a feature that can multiply votes by a number that is not 1, that means you can either debase a vote or you can increase a vote.
And you have proof of this, Doctor? You have evidence that these
Yeah, so everyone just go type in debold voting manual on Google right now and go to page 2-126. Okay, you'll see it. It's called a weighted race feature. So this is not like anyone can find it. Wow. Type in, and now all of the voting machines have this feature. Now, why was this developed? The voting companies are just trying to make money, right? So they were using their voting systems even for like housing associations. So let's say you and I live in a housing association. You own 2,000 square feet, and I own 1,500 square feet, and we're going to vote on some bill, and it could be a large association, on whether we're going to improve the grounds. Well, how much comes out of everyone's condo fee amount is a function of the square footage they own. So if you have 2,000, you get 2 votes, I get 1.5 votes, right? Or in a corporate stock agreement, right? Things like that. But why is that feature in federal election software? So that's the question. And what we found out in Massachusetts was my votes were multiplied by 2/3 and my opponents by 1.2. I did the mathematical analysis. In one of our lawsuits, which has survived dismissal, my analysis has gone unrebutted. There's a lot of smart people in Cambridge. So the real crime scene is not China doing it from somewhere, all right, or voter suppression, which was what the Democrats talk about, or Dominion, or vote. This is all distractions. The real issue is that government officials in this country are certifying voting machines which have this feature. That's the first question.
Is that illegal? Are they allowed to do that?
Their they make up they're the state election directors, right? It's, in my view, it's illegal because it violates the work of, case law. It violates the foundations of one person, one vote, okay? So that's the model that we have. So our lawsuit in federal court, all of these other lawsuits, with how many ever lawyers that they had, I've represented myself. My lawsuit has survived dismissal.
So it's still active right now?
It's active.
Okay.
You can look it up, case 1280. So, but the foundational issue here is that if you look, basically Democrats and Republicans cut agreements. And if you get to the politics of this, you take a place like Michigan, right? Where there was our analysis says there was blatant election fraud there. The video that we did went viral, showing that, unrebutted mathematically. But the state legislature is all Republican. So what's going on? Well, we have to understand this, like in all of these states, there's Treaty of Versailles deals struck, right? Okay, you get the state, we'll take the federal. Because remember, if you own the local state legislature, whether you're Democrat or Republican, you control the flow of money. Massive amounts of money flow here. Yeah. So the local state legislators in Michigan probably don't really care about the federal election. They already got their cushy jobs and all sorts of graft and et cetera. So we have to move beyond this Republican-Democrat narrative. You have to go much more to the foundational issues. And that's as a scientist, as a technologist, as a guy who builds these systems. Why is there a feature that can multiply your votes by a factor? Period. That's a question mark everyone should be asking.
Well, good. It is something everybody ought to be asking. You ought to be asking your state election officials, folks. This is a serious question. I want to move on now in the time that we have left. Dr. Shiva, you have an incredible lawsuit right now against Twitter. And
it's not against Twitter, it's against the government.
Against the government, that's
right.
Of
Massachusetts, yeah.
For working with Twitter. I guess the government told Twitter to silence you, to censor you, and you've got evidence of this. And so it's in the courts now, and I understand it's survived an initial effort to dismiss it. Tell us about the lawsuit. It survived
multiple motions to dismiss. We've gotten multiple victories. So the key is the single sentence about our case, what's so historic and profound about it is this is the case that shows that the government silences political speech.
So they have this
when you
portal.
critique them. Yeah.
Tell us about it.
So what we found out was when I filed the lawsuit in October by myself, right? When we found out that when I exposed from my other lawsuit, we have one lawsuit where we expose the fact that they're multiplying votes by factors. In my other lawsuit, I found out that the way you could find out, another way you could detect if this vote misalignment was taking place is that if there's 50 votes that come in, 50 people come to vote, you should have 50 ballots, actual casts. Well, some of those ballots could be ballot images, right? Which are in electronic voting machines. When 50 people come to vote, the voting machines make a digital image of those ballots. And that's what's counted. So I asked the Secretary of State, I issued a public records request, I want a ballot image, those ballot images. They responded back to me saying that they've deleted the ballot images, that they don't have to store them. Well, by federal law, you have to store them for 22 months. The email conversation that I had with the Secretary of State exposing the fact that they deleted ballot images, and we're absolutely fine with that, the screenshots of those emails, 4 of them, I shared on Twitter. The instant I shared those on September 21st, by the way, at that point, I'm a U.S. Senate federal candidate critiquing the government, First Amendment. When I shared those 4 email screenshots, I was taken off Twitter. Subsequent, we went into a lawsuit. In a 4.5-hour testimony, the communications social media director of the government, I think she was afraid she didn't want to get thrown in jail. She admits that we have a partnership with Twitter. Everyone should listen to this. A trusted partnership with Twitter. The Trusted Twitter Partnership. And they have a portal where they can silence political speech or inform Twitter what to do, minimum. But Twitter, on the other hand, has an agreement. When you tell us, we'll take care of it for you. That's an agreement that's put in place. So that means where government ends and Twitter begins is all been blurred. So on October 30th, the hearing when I filed my preliminary injunctions, the judge gave us another big victory. He heard the hearing, and then he also gave me all the terms of the PI. The PI, preliminary injunction, which was he told the government stop contacting Twitter, stop.
So that's in effect right now?
That was in effect on October 30th.
Okay.
It went into effect. But when I got back on Twitter on November 4th, after this, I started tweeting again. On February 1st, I again shared those 4 email screenshots. Again, this time I was thrown off within 17 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Went back into court. This time the judge said, I want you to bring in Twitter into my courtroom so before I can give you complete relief. So on May 20th and 21st, we had a historic set of hearings, 20 hours of hearings, me versus 7 lawyers, 3 of the top lawyers from Twitter, 3 of the lawyers from the Secretary of State, and 1 lawyer from the National Association of State Election Directors, which is an organization that also contacted Twitter then to throw me off. Oh, so the key takeaway is the government has an infrastructure, a surveillance mechanism, and most importantly in our May 20th hearing, we found the 4 playbooks, the operating manuals written by Twitter Legal, written by the state election directors, written by the Secretary of State election director in Massachusetts. At Harvard, it's a manual for censorship of speech using Twitter. It says, step 1, find out if the person is an influence operator, an IO, which means do they have influence and are they critiquing the government? I think the 2nd or 3rd page lays this out, that if you have people critiquing the government, you need to start blacklisting them.
How do people learn more about this lawsuit? Is there any way for people to support this? I know you're looking, I think, for constitutional attorneys who might be able to file briefs and help out here. What's the best way to get involved?
So what happened is, on the 2nd day of the hearings, the judge basically advised me. He goes, you've gotten it this far, and he said this lawsuit more than likely will become a law school exam in every constitutional law class.
Wow.
And so he has suggested an attorney, which we've 24 hours ago we onboarded him.
Oh, wonderful.
So I have 3 constitutional attorneys right now. I still get to have hybrid representation. The way everyone can help is we have a site called winbackfreedom.com. And the goal here is we have to recognize we've lost our freedom. When you look at the fact that the government can silence speech, they have an infrastructure, we need to win it back. Our lawsuit is the heart of that. It is the inflection point in American history. I want everyone to donate just $1, Alex, just $1. Go to winbackfreedom.com. We want to have millions of people doing this because this is the tip of the spear of the fundamental reality that it's not big tech. We've made big tech this Goliath. But they actually jump. Jack Dorsey jumps when government calls. Mark Zuckerberg, we just saw, jumps when Biden said it was okay now to talk about the Wuhan virus and potentially being made in a lab. So we have to recognize it is the government of the United States that is fascist. So in China, in Russia, and other quote-unquote third world countries, the corruption is very direct. But in America, they create users manuals, they do them at Harvard, right? The fascism is much more profoundly sophisticated. Our lawsuit has exposed that. It has survived motions to dismiss, and everyone has an opportunity to be part of this. It's our lawsuit. I mean, I just happen to be the guy who got it this far, but we need everyone's help because depositions, discovery cost money. So $1 at winbackfreedom.com.
All right, folks, winbackfreedom.com. You heard it here. Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai, he is on the front lines of battling all of this craziness with the elections, with the big technology companies, with the censorship. Thanks for watching. We will be back with many, many more speakers and a lot more special content. Stay tuned right here. Thanks again.